So, are you a plotter or a pantster? Now, anybody who is a writer will know exactly what I mean by that. Plotters are people who plot out their books before they start writing them, and pantsters are people who just sit down and write. And they're called pantsters because it's like I'm writing by the seat of my pants. And I will say that most successful self-published authors that I know are resolutely plotters. Some very, very successful authors are complete pantsters. Stephen King, for example, he's a pantster. I love his book on writing. It has this beautiful paragraph where he describes, like, to him, a story is like writing stories like being an archaeologist, where you like dust away and you find the bones and the skeleton and the structure of the story underneath, and that's really beautiful. But it's funny, in the latest version of It, when they made that movie, he has a cameo where he talks about the characters' books having lousy endings, because that's a criticism a lot of people have of Stephen King, and that's one of the difficult things of being a pantster. So I started my life as a writer, as most people do, as a complete pantster, and now I am a resolute plotter, and I plot my books out. I've got like the next 10 books in the series already thought of in my mind. But then again, you sometimes find that the characters in your book don't respect your plot, and things can go completely sideways. Like, I'm writing at the moment a 5-book series that has now become a 6-book series, because some characters did some things I didn't expect, and that's fine, because if you have to make a choice between what happens in your story that's true to the characters or true to your plot, you should always pick the characters. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about whether you're a plotter or a pantster has nothing to do with plotting or pantsting your writing. It's actually about your writing career. If you want to be a successful self-published author, you can't pantster your writing career. It's something you do need to plot out, and it's something that a lot of writers don't think about. A lot of writers and a lot of self-published authors get into self-publishing because they write a book, they maybe get a couple of rejection slips, or they don't know how to approach a literary agent or something like that, so they decide to self-publish, and then kind of leads from there. But I believe, as I keep saying, that anybody can be a successful self-published author if they learn the craft of writing. That's very, very important, and they follow the process. And I made a video about sort of what my successful self-publishing career looked like, and it was driven by regular releases of books and having a book series and developing a fan base and things like this. And that is really the key to being a successful self-published author. And in order to do that, you need to plot things out. You need to have a strategy beyond just publishing your book and hoping for the best. I actually think the first thing you should do, if you make the commitment that you want to be a successful self-published author, is throw away anything you've written or published or anything, because you know what? You need to approach it with a completely clear slate. At the moment, I'm reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk. And he says, the first thing that you have to do is like surrender, is get rid of all your material things. And as a writer, if you want to be a successful self-published author, you need to do the same thing. You need to surrender everything you think you know and learn what it is that is real, and what it is that's going to work, and what it is that's going to make you successful. And to my mind, the first thing you need to do is decide, what kind of author do you want to be? What kind of books do you want to write? And it's funny, some writers don't even think that, and that's why a lot of self-published authors, they publish a book and they're like, well, it's a kind of a mixture of genres, it's a mixture of categories, and I mean, I fully respect writing the book that speaks to your heart, but if you want to be successful as an author, you can't approach it like that. You have to sit down and say, okay, what type of book do I want to write? And so for me, I write romance books under a pen name, but I write really action-packed, exciting books that just happen to be written in the romance style. It's a genre called romantic suspense, and that is a genre, and there is a huge market for books like that, as long as they sort of fit in with the other ones. So what you need to do is decide what type of books you want to write. Romantic suspense is great. If you are into spy thrillers are great. If you are into action adventure stories like Dick Francis and Clive Cussler, that's great. Whatever it is, though, you have to decide what uh, what kind of book and what kind of author you want to be. Once you've done that, you should go to Amazon and look up these categories of books. Um, I mean, a great piece of advice is if you're really into a particular type of book and that's the kind of book you want to write, you should go to the particular book that inspired there. So if you're a James Bond fan, go to one of the James Bond books. If you're a Lee Child fan, go there. If you're a Harry Potter fan, go there. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to the bit where it says customers who bought this book also bought this book, and see what's down there, because then you can see like other authors who might be like less prominent, and you can see what similarities there are with the books that they publish and the books that you particularly love. Another thing to do is go halfway down the product page and look at the categories the book is listed in. So if you go to one of my books, you'll see like it's got military romance and it's got romantic suspense, and you can click on one of those and it'll take you through to the top 100 books in that category. And that's where you start looking through and you'll see the similarities, and you'll see some of the conventions, and you'll see what is popular in that particular category. And this is very, very important. If you go to thrillers, for example, you'll see all the covers for thrillers and things like that. They are almost all identical, and they might not be at first glance, but then you start dissecting them. It's like every single thriller cover has sans serif text. Normally they don't have pictures of people on the cover. It's really interesting when you start like ticking the boxes and go down. You can see there's almost a checklist of like, this is what a successful thriller cover looks like. There's a YouTube video somewhere, and hopefully I can find it because I'll link to it down below, where this girl who's a graphic designer, she's just like, I'm going to design a thriller cover, and she designs a thriller cover to the conventions of a thriller, and it's amusing to watch, but it also is like stark and humbling, because you're like, oh, I see, it really is like a product. But that's what it is. It is a product that you are selling, and if you want people to buy it, you have to package it in a way that makes them want to buy it. Okay, that's great. You've decided what category what book category you want to be and what kind of author you want to be. Then you have to start thinking long term. You can't just write one book and hope to be successful. You have to write more books. You don't need to churn them out one every single month like some authors do. But you need to have a plan of like, okay, I'm going to write a series of books, and series of books are the key to being a successful self-published author. You publish one book, and then you publish the next book, and if you are successful in selling that first book, people want to read the next book, and the next book, and the next book. And it's like a snowball. It's like the more books you write and the longer your series gets, the more people you will get hooked into it, and every time you do, they have to go back to the beginning to read through. I just published my new book, and it's the 11th book in the series, and it did pretty well in the promotions that I did. I actually got to the first time I've ever got a book in the #1 spot in its category. But the thing that I found really interesting is, in terms of the sales I got more book sales on the first book in my series than I did on the one that I was promoting. So many new pairs of eyes went to this new book, and they were like, oh, this looks really cool. But they're like, oh, it's book 11 in the series. I better start at the beginning, and went back. And that's really, really important to think about, because this is the strategy that is going to make you successful as an author, is having a specific category that your book is going to be published in, and then having a series planned out. They don't have to be like super interconnected books like mine are, but you have to have a series so people know the progression of which book to go. Readers really, really love that. I mean, you can write 20 books, but you'll actually put readers off if you don't sort of list the order in which they should be read. So it's very, very important to think of that as a series, and also it's very important to think of in terms of any advertising or promotion you do in the future. So it's such low-hanging fruit to promote the first book in your series. I've got 11 books in the series. If I can promote that first book in the series and hook new readers, I'm not just balancing out the return on investment on the sale of that first book. I'm also hopefully going to get them to buy the next book and the next book and the next book and the next book, and that makes all the difference in the world. So, off the top of my head, my books are priced at $3.99. So, if I $3.99, you get 70% royalty from Amazon. So that means $3 basically to play with. If you can get a reader to buy that book and the average cost of sale is less than $3, then you're making a profit on that book, which is great. But the thing is, if it's the first book in your series and they then read the next book in the series, you've made a profit on that first sale, and then the next book in the series they will buy full price and you'll get $3, and you didn't have to advertise anything. The next book in the series, and the next book in the series, and the next book in the series. So I make an average of $3 per book that I write, and I've written 11 books, and the 10 previous books are all published at $3.99. That means if I can hook one reader into that first book, and they then buy the next 10 books in that series, that's $300. So you can see how massively important it is to have a book series. And you also have to get that first book super right. I'm going to make another video about that because I've been rambling on a lot. But if you want to be a successful self-published author, what you have to do is sit down and be like, okay, I have to be strategic about this. I have to plot it out. A lot of authors are like, oh, I've already written a book. How do I sell it? It's like, no. I will do another video in which I explain where anything you've written before or anything like that can fit into this equation, because I do believe that whatever it is that you have a passion about writing, whatever it is inspired you to become a writer is important, and you need to put that out there into the world, but you need to do it in a way that will be successful. So before you even think about selling this particular book or anything like that, you have to think about your career as an author, what kind of author you want to be, what kind of books you want to write, and how they are all going to come together to attract that loyal fan base that is going to enable you to become a successful self-published author. There we go. Rant over, and I will make another video again soon. Cheers.